good, sir.
All right. Thanks for joining. Let me get this share screen off. All right, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you doing today, Nigel?
I'm good as well. Good as well. All right. Yeah, if you want to start from the top, man, I'm glad you thanks for reaching out. And yeah, if you want to start from the top, yeah, tell me more about what you got going on.
Yeah, and thank you for the time. I know you've been in this game for a long time, so I said like, let me reach out to somebody that knows something, that really knows something, so that they can kind of guide me through some things. So, you know, my wife
Uh,
has a property.
Hold on a second. Is
In,
that on my side or your side? Hold on. What's that?
what's that?
You heard the beeping? Okay, stop. Okay, cool. All right, go ahead.
Okay, I was saying, so on my side, my wife has a property, solo in her name.
Mhm.
She's had the property for about 5 years now and looking to sell, like looking to see what's the best way to actually sell it.
Mhm.
So looking to liquidate our assets and restructure some things. So this property she bought it at 280, and it probably appraises for about 400 now.
Mhm.
Um, she has a Section 8 client in there, and they're paying about 2,000 a month, and just wanted to see what are some good strategies to either A, sell it to an investor for a quicker sale, or what kind of strategy should we be looking for where we could probably take a little loss but not like a whole loss on it.
Okay.
So just
Now,
wanted to see some thoughts around that.
okay. Now, where's this? Where's the property located?
It's in Louisiana,
Okay.
near New Orleans.
Okay. Okay. So pretty big city then.
It's a small city. It's about 20-30 minutes from Louisiana. Small city.
Okay. Okay. And you said it's worth about 400,000.
Probably about 400,000.
Okay. And right now the mortgage balance is around 280.
Around 280. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, if you can sell it, what would you say is like the ideal price, or what do you have in mind that you would want to sell it for?
I would like 100, but I'm willing to um walk away with less because, like I said, the goal is really to um liquidate and get that off our rolls. So
Okay.
um I don't want to walk away with 10 grand.
Yeah.
I would love 100, but I don't really want 10 grand. So somewhere in between that vast number
Okay.
is where I'm willing to work.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I guess what comes to mind immediately is okay, mortgage balance is 280. If you were to get that 100, we're talking about 380 on a property that's worth 400. And if we're thinking about if we were listing the property, right? Obviously that real estate agents got to get paid, right? So their money's going to come off top. So that could be, 5% or whatever that ends up being in that
Yep, it says
area,
five to
right?
six percent.
Yeah,
Louisiana, I looked it up.
yeah,
So
5 to 6% in that area. So that already would bring you down from that 400,000 to the 380. And that's assuming someone gave you a full price offer, right?
mhm.
When we
Yep.
know most people are looking for deals, right?
Hmm.
Um, and what I would say is that while it's a tenant occupied property and that can be an advantage in one sense, it also could be a disadvantage in another sense because a person that's looking to pay full price typically is
Hmm.
someone who's approaching it more, I say, from an emotional space, like I want to live here type of energy, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
obviously they can't do that if someone else is. At least they can't do it immediately, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, how long is the lease on this property?
Uh, Probably a year.
So you think it's about a year left?
It's about a year, maybe about 6 or 7, maybe about 7 months.
Okay. Okay. So 7 months left on the lease. Okay. So even if someone did purchase it and want to live in it themselves, obviously that would be a bit of an obstacle, right? Um, and then on the other side, if you were trying to sell it to an investor, right, then
Hmm.
the investor is going to look at it like, well, I'm not going to live here, right? So because I'm not going to live here, I'm trying to get a good deal. I'm trying to buy a dollar's worth of equity for some amount less than a dollar. right?
Mhm.
So they're less motivated to want to pay full price, right?
Of
Because they're
course.
coming at it from a business sense and they want to get their, their return, right?
Going to get a return.
Um,
Yep. Oh,
so you're kind of in that middle place, right? What I would suggest is I would start, if I was in your position, what I would start with is looking at the tenant themselves. You said this is a Section 8 tenant.
I did look. They
Okay.
do not offer that where they can use their voucher to buy the property.
Okay. Okay. Um, I would I would still reach out to the caseworker. Um, I've been in several meetings. I was actually just in a meeting last week. I guess a couple people texted me for the invite link. I'll send that to them here. But I was in a meeting last week where it was the regional housing association. I forget they invited. It was my first time at this particular meeting, but they had just met with Section 8 um, that morning. Right, they
Hmm.
have an open meeting thing for landlords every Thursday. So they had walked in. Our meeting was on a Thursday with this organization. They had just left Section 8. Well, part of what they were talking about in that meeting was the people working at the local housing authority weren't aware of they weren't aware of some of the programs that have been approved and that are being offered nationally. Okay.
Hmm.
I don't know if you were on the call. Maybe this time last year, me and Stefan were on a call
No,
together.
I wasn't
Um,
on.
where we were talking about some of the differences between where he does his Section 8 programs. I believe it was in Ohio, is where he was, compared
Hmm.
to my experience here in Kansas City, right? Kansas City,
Hmm.
Missouri. And he was talking about how in his state, they have like a fund where if the tenants do some damages to the properties and things like that, then
Hmm.
he's able to reach out to the housing authority and tap into those specific funds where he doesn't have to try to chase the money from the tenant who might not have the money, right?
Yep,
Section 8
that's typical
themselves
Section
is,
8. Yeah.
yeah, Section 8
Hmm.
themselves is actually has a fund where they reimburse and a payment schedule depending on what type of damage it is. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, that program is not actually being promoted
Highlighted.
here in
Hmm.
Kansas City out loud. But after this meeting last week, come to find out it is accessible, just our local caseworkers don't know about it. So
Hmm.
you kind of have to train them a little bit on
Hmm.
how to. I hate to say how to do their job, but you
Hmm.
kind of got to
I
train
get
them
it. Yeah.
on, like no, this is what's offered. Because remember, we're talking about something that's organized and administered federally, and then it passes down and all the locally, operated, right?
Hmm.
So if the federal government already has signed off on that and made that mandate, right, then it's already there, right?
Hmm.
You might just have to reach the right person. Maybe that specific caseworker doesn't know, maybe their manager doesn't know, maybe there's some regional representative. I would say similar to what I did last week, I would suggest for you, or if I was in your position with a property in New Orleans, I would find a local landlord group or apartment owners association in New Orleans who does have the contact with the higher ups with the housing authority, right,
Hmm.
in that area. So that way you can get in communication with the right people so that you can find out how to make that happen. Okay.
Hmm.
Because somebody has to be first, right? So if no one else is asking about it, no one else knows about it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist,
Hmm.
right? It might still exist. It's just people have to, somebody has to kind of shake things up a little bit. And maybe that's you. Because you would be in a situation where the person living there, obviously they're incentivized to stay there for the stability of their family, right? You're creating a home ownership opportunity for them. So they're less likely to try to beat you up on your price, right?
Hmm.
And I would say now as a backup plan, I would work to connect this resident with some other local programs. Maybe that's NACA, or similar types of programs like that. Or if you're familiar with them,
What's
NACA,
not stuff? Hmm.
NACA.
And that's good.
Yeah, just
No.
look up NACA online, and you'll see what
Hmm.
they have is basically it's a nonprofit that offers like financial literacy classes, and then once you
Okay.
graduate, they actually offer home financing
Oh,
for
down
people
payment
who are
assistance. Hmm.
down payment assistance, home
Yeah.
financing, all types of things for people who otherwise might not be eligible or qualify to buy a home through traditional means. Okay.
Gotcha.
So that would be a backup plan. Um, Now, regarding this particular tenant, do you know if they pay a significant portion of the rent themselves, or does Section 8 take care of all of it for them?
They pay the majority of it.
The tenant pays the majority?
Hmm.
Okay. So then they actually then I would imply that they have some type of income. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they have some income, then that actually makes things a little bit better for you as far as possibly being able to sell it to them. Um, Now you said with this being a $400,000 house, you know, that might be a bit of a challenge for them to qualify depending on what that income is. But those are the places that I would start.
Okay.
No,
So, oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
No, so I was going to say, so from an investor standpoint, what do you think is like a sweet spot as far as sale?
Investors, when I coach investors, I tell them the starting point is the traditional, what I call the traditional investor formula. Okay.
Mhm.
And the traditional investor formula, to give you the simple version, is 70% of after repair value, and then you subtract repairs. Okay. So let's run through the numbers on your property. You said it's after repair, is no repairs needed, right? It's in good condition.
No. Uh-huh.
Okay, it's good condition. So let's assume $0 in repairs. So the after repair value we're going to assume is $400,000 even, right?
Mm-hmm.
70% of that is going to be $280,000.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that number, we subtract the repair. So in your case, it'd be zero, right?
Mm-hmm.
So $280,000 is what you would calculate as the MAO, which is the maximum allowable offer. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean in plain English? In plain English, that means if I buy the property from you, that's the most that I can expect another investor to buy it from me for.
Mm-hmm.
So if I assume I'm a wholesaler or whatever, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if I want to sell it to another investor, what is the wholesale amount that another investor would, the maximum amount another investor would buy it from me for? I would, as a conservative type of minded person, I'm going to use this formula and say I would expect that they would pay no more than 280. Why? Because I know they're looking for a deal, right? I
Mm-hmm.
know they're looking in it to make a profit. I know they're coming in expecting to not pay full price. Okay. My personal view is that anytime you come close to about 80% of ARV or anything higher, I look at that as retail. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's retail price. Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because we just talked about, 5 or 6% goes to the agent. The person offering is gonna, offer you some
Mm-hmm.
kind of discount. In fact, I got a form here I can show you, so you'll see exactly how I do it. Let me see if I can find this for you. 1 second. Choose this one.
So it sounds like I'm gonna have to go to the retail market.
I would strongly encourage that. I would strongly encourage that because you are now. That's not to say that there won't be any investors that would entertain paying more. Remember, that's more of a model talk to wholesalers or people that's intending to be short term, or for really conservative people like myself who want to know that I have a backup plan where if I get in over my head, I can't rent this property, it sits too long, this holding costs kind of start eating me alive. The
Mm-hmm.
market turns, maybe something bad happens, heaven forbid something bad happens in the neighborhood where now nobody wants to stay there for a while because it's been on the news. I'm speaking on things that's actually happened to me in real life where I've had to sit on
Okay.
properties, right? So, so you sit on a long time or something, you're like, look, I got to get out of this deal. Well, if I do a fire sale and I want to get out of this deal, someone's probably going to pay me 280, right? Now, if 280 is the maximum allowable offer, then that implies that what I'm really looking for is to buy it for less than that number, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I
Mm-hmm.
buy it for 280 and I sell it for 280, I didn't make any
You
money.
didn't make any money.
And I ain't in the business of just breaking even or losing money, right? So I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
try to buy it for less than that, right, on the acquisition side. So that way I know worst case I can sell it to somebody else and I might be able to find someone that'll pay me 280. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if you're selling directly to landlords, rehabbers, in your case, it's a brand new property that doesn't need any repairs, so maybe not as attractive to them. But some segments of the investing population are going to pay a little bit more than that 70% number. But I
Mm-hmm.
just try to caution investors, because again, I got a financial services background, right? I don't do it anymore, but for many years I had a financial services agency. So I have a very conservative nature when it comes to these things, because by definition they're not liquid, right? It's hard to liquidate them,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you balance out that illiquidity, right? By putting yourself in the best financial position possible, right? So let's see if I can find this form for you. I think this will be very helpful for you. Cost of sale. See if I can get this to come up. Okay. All right. Let's see. Let me see if I can share this for you so you can get an idea of what I see and what all goes into uh, my calculations. Here we go. Let me know if you can see this.
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. All right. And these are the things that I was verbalizing to you. Now, again, this is based on $100,000 asking price, not the $400,000 price that you're thinking for
Mhm.
your property, but you can just,
Yeah,
uh,
make the numbers simple.
yeah,
I see.
there you go. Okay, so based on $100,000 asking price, and I'm usually sitting down at a table across from a property owner, because many of these property owners think, if I ask 100,000, I'm actually going to walk away with 100,000. We got to have empathy and understand that most of these people have never sold a property before, so they don't
Mm-hmm.
know. They don't know, right? So we have to help educate them, and in fact, we have to equip them so really they can educate themselves, right? So I'll go through this example with you. All right. So, Mr. Seller here, based on $100,000 asking price, here's some numbers of what the expenses might cost. These are national averages. So, if you have a different number that you think this should cost, then we're gonna go with whatever number you tell me, right? And then I'm gonna plug this in here. So, asking price, I believe you told me 400,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll write 400,000 right here. Now, real estate commission. We usually estimate about 7%. National average is anywhere between 5 to 7%. What
Mm-hmm.
number have you seen in your area?
Six. I said six. Six is a bad.
Okay, 6%. Okay. And maybe somebody in the chat can be doing this actual math with us while we go through this, so we can have some real numbers or something, so we can see what the bottom line number is. Okay, so we got 400,000. We're going to subtract 6%, which is going to be 6 times 4, 24,000, right? Buyer's discount. Most buyers don't want to pay full price, so they ask for some type of discount, right? And we try to estimate that that's going to be somewhere between 2 to 5% of asking price. And we say the national average discount that the buyers request, is about 3%. What
Mhm.
percentage are you comfortable using here?
Uh, yeah, I probably would go with 3%. No more than 3%.
3% discount. Okay. So 3% for 400,000, we're talking about $12,000 right there. Okay. You're keeping track of these numbers, right? Because I'm not going to remember them at the end.
Yep.
Okay,
I'm,
okay,
I'm,
cool. Closing costs. We estimate about 3%, but anywhere between 2 to 4% kind of matches our experience. What number are you comfortable with?
I'll go with what you put as an average. But we go with 4% just to be on the high side.
Okay, 4% of 400,000. Okay, so we'll put that there in that line. Now, holding costs. Holding costs. Um, During marketing, we assume that if you were to list this property for sale, right, that an agent's going to come along and say, well, I need to list it for 6 months so that I can find a buyer. They're asking for 6 months because they need 6 months to find a buyer. Sure, you can get lucky, right? It might happen next week or next month or something like that. But if they're signing a 6 month contract, it's you know financially reasonable that you expect that you're going to have to make those mortgage payments during the listing agreement, right?
Mhm.
So, how much is your monthly mortgage payment?
Yeah, I'll say it's like 23.
2,300. So let's calculate 2,300 times six. What's that number?
14,000.
14,000. Okay. And then we have holding costs, utilities. Okay, do you pay any of the utilities, or does the
No.
tenant pay them? Okay, so you can put a zero there. Okay, insurance. This property is not vacant. Uh, Typically, if it's a vacant property, then you would have to buy insurance that covers vacant properties, and of course, that kind of insurance costs more, right? So we would calculate that, and typically you pay for like 6 months and they don't prorate you back. You know, if you buy like a normal insurance policy, you buy a 12-month policy and you only use 2 months, they'll refund you the months you didn't use. The vacancy insurance oftentimes doesn't work that way. You pay for six
Mhm.
months, you don't get it prorated back to you oftentimes. So that's just a hard cost, right? Yard maintenance and cleaning. If this was a vacant property, right? Now I typically make my tenants responsible for their own yard work. Do you handle the yard work for your tenant, or do they do it themselves?
I'm not sure. I'd have to check.
Okay, so we probably want to assume that you might have to be paying for that. If you don't know, let's assume that it's your responsibility, right? So,
Hmm.
what would you say? What's the average cost for cutting the grass and doing yard maintenance and things to make the place look good?
I'll say no more than $100. I'll say probably like $50 a month. Looking at what I pay, like for mine, I'd say it's $50.
Okay, all right, and you do that monthly, $50 a month,
Yeah, I'll say monthly.
and that'll keep it looking good enough to impress a buyer who's looking to buy it, right? We're not talking about just cutting the grass to keep code enforcement off of us. We're talking about we want a buyer to see that and say, yes, I want to pay $400,000.
Hmm.
Is $50 going to be enough to make a buyer want to spend $400,000?
Oh yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, it's not a
Okay,
big yard.
okay, all right, cool. So do that once a month times 6 months. Then we're talking about, I guess that'd be $300 in that line. Okay.
Mhm.
Now appraisal. And these are old numbers, by the way, right? I pay a lot more than $300 for appraisals in my area. This is a very old sheet that I've been using for many, many years. But um, what would you say an appraisal costs in your area? Do you have any idea?
I'm not sure. I'll just say, well, I think I paid like maybe 300 or 400 for my appraisal, so I'll just go with that.
Okay, we'll go with that. Just so you know, my last appraisal was about $550. And it was not a $400,000 house. So
Mhm.
I know these things vary by part of the country and so forth and
Mhm.
so on. So whatever number that you're comfortable with, that's what we'll go with. Okay.
Mhm.
Survey. In case a survey is required, um, then the old price was 275. Who knows what they cost today? But are you comfortable with 275, or do you want to go with a different number?
Yeah, we can go with that number.
Okay. Theft. You have insurance on your property because things can happen, right? And
Hmm.
we like to budget at least the insurance deductible in case something happens. That needs to be factored in because you've already bought insurance, assuming that if something happens, you're already committed to paying that much of the
Hmm.
loss, right? So, how much is your deductible on your insurance?
I think it's maybe I'd have to check that number.
Okay. Um, Most people do like $500 or 1,000. Do you want to do $500 or you want to do 1,000 here?
I'll do 500.
Okay, 500. All right, now property taxes. Do you have an idea how much your property taxes are per year?
No, everything's included in that 2,300.
Okay, okay. Well, since that's included, if you were paying this separate, we would match it to the fact that you would be expecting to list it for 6 months and say that half of that cost we need to budget out of what you're going to receive from closing. But since you're already planning for that via or paying for that via your mortgage payment, then we'll just put a zero here. Okay.
Mhm.
Transfer tax. Do you know if there's a transfer tax in your area?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Okay. So $1 per thousand, we're talking about 400,000. Um, I don't know if $1 per thousand is accurate for your area, but I'd rather estimate conservatively. And maybe, are you comfortable with putting $400 here, or do you want to do a
I'm
different number?
comfortable with whatever you say.
Okay, let's go with
Uh,
the $400. Um, then inspection gotchas. Okay. These are unforeseen items that the buyer requires to be repaired before closing. what's this
Mm-hmm.
mean? I know this is a brand new home. You said it's only been built, what, a couple of years ago. So it
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be a lot of repairs. But on the other
Mm-hmm.
end, we do have a tenant there, and there might be some deferred maintenance. I always use the example of maybe the kids spilled some Kool-Aid on the carpet, you know, maybe the dog, nibbled on something or stuff happens,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and the buyers are going to go through there and they're going to notice these things and they're going to expect it to be repaired before sale, right?
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
so we know they're going to find something. And at
Mm-hmm.
minimum, if this was $100,000 house, we would estimate $500 for the value of the things that they're going to expect us to fix before closing.
Mm-hmm.
On this $400,000 house, what would you want to estimate that the repairs are going to be costing?
Um, I would just say maybe 2,000 just to do something.
Okay,
Um,
okay. So we'll do 2,000 there. Now,
let me see.
did you have a question before we proceeded, or
Now I'm sending you a message.
okay, okay,
Uh,
all right. And then let's see here. Okay, all right. So we almost to the bottom here. Got you. So I'll just run through these pretty quick here. Okay. So home shield warranty, I would estimate those about $1,000 because prices are no longer 500. You already have appliances in the place, I assume, right?
yeah.
Okay, so we can put a zero there. Termite inspection, I would probably estimate maybe $300 or something like that.
Okay.
And then of course, if they find termite damage, there's going to be a cost to repair that as well, right?
Okay.
You have a new home, so maybe that's less likely. And same thing for the treatment. Um, so do you have a grand total of what the
I just kept deducting the cost for the house and with everything you said, and I was down to probably like about 330.
so let's call that $70,000 worth of deductions
Mm-hmm.
that you're estimating from that to be reduced from your asking price. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I train investors to walk sellers down the process. So that way they'll know, what they can actually expect to receive. And that tends to be my starting point for negotiations.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you. That's definitely a good start. It helps me to really think about realistically what I got to do, and I'm definitely looking forward to us doing a part two so I can get the other things. And after I've looked at my my dwindling profits, and come back to you and see what are some other strategies to do. But I really appreciate you taking the time and giving me this information. I would have never thought about doing it the way that you did it. And that worksheet that you have,
Okay.
really powerful, gives you a really good breakdown on things that you need to consider if you haven't really done it like that before.
All right. Well, look forward to doing a part two with you where we can talk about some other strategies. Thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing. And we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks, Nigel. Have a great day.
Are you too?
Bye-bye.
All right. So, um, now how about in the chat? Let me check the chat out, see if anybody else has any questions. Let me see what we got in here. Okay, here we go. All right. So, anybody else on here? How about this? I'd like to get some input from you guys. Was this helpful at all? Did you guys get anything out of this? Did this help to, you know, clear up any confusion? Did this help you at all in any kind of way? All right. And did anybody else have any questions? Let's see. Oh, okay. All right, cool one. No problem, no problem. Well, I am recording this, so that way you guys can go ahead and replay this and watch it from the beginning to see kind of how we got to where we are. Um, I sure appreciate you all joining. Let's see. Does anybody else have any questions before we get ready to close this out? All right. Well, let me see. Oh, okay, here we go. Go ahead. What's going on, Juan? What kind of question do you have? And did you want to come on, or did you want to just type your question in the chat? Either way.
Hey, I thought I was talking the whole time.
Okay.
No, I was thinking about doing wholesaling, and I know it's probably a little bit different from what you're doing.
Okay.
And I don't know. I've been looking around, shopping around, and when you don't really got too much backing, you're starting off hungry, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is wholesaling a good way to start? Good
Um,
vehicle from your
what I would
experience?
say is I started off wholesaling
Okay.
27 years ago. That's what I did. I got attracted to it because I mean how I perceived myself was that I didn't have much cash. Um, I had a lot of ambition. I knew the real estate was a way to make money, and I didn't really have enough tools to know the other strategies to use. Right. So wholesaling is how I started. Right. And and it helped me. It taught me how to do the deal. Most importantly, it gave me the confidence, right, to know that I could actually do it. Because it's one thing to see other people do stuff. It's another thing when you have your own personal experience, right? So that's what wholesaling did for me. Fast forward 5 or 10 years, right? I became a different investor than who I was in the beginning. Okay. And the investor that I became in the beginning, or the investor that I became after 10 years, I started analyzing my deals differently. And I realized, wait a minute, the amount of money that I'm making off of wholesaling, what if there was a way that I could make that same amount or more while still holding on to the property?
Mm,
Okay. So I would go to national trainings. I would go to, I would meet with real estate coaches, and they'd have a room full of investors from all over the country. Sometimes 100 people, sometimes 500 people that have flew in to learn all these advanced techniques on real estate investing. And I'd be in these rooms and I would hear people's numbers. And some of these were close, inner circles and masterminds and things like that, where people really shared their real numbers. I'm talking about tax returns and all this other stuff, right? So I saw real numbers and I realized that with the headlines and the brochures and the advertisements. Oh, you're gonna make 50,000 per property, 100,000 per property. That wasn't real. It happens, but that's
yeah.
not what consistently happens. That's not what you should expect to happen on every deal, in particular when you're wholesaling. The true real number, if you look at national averages, is closer to $5,000 to $10,000 per transaction.
Yeah. That's what I was
Right?
thinking too.
5,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at it and you're like, okay, wait, if I'm only making 5 or 10,000, for this house to pass through my hands. And, a shift happened to me 10 years in, right? Because why was I hustling so much to do wholesaling? Because I was really running from a job. I didn't want that job anymore. I, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I hated the
Yeah.
job. I hated working there. I'll tell the story about what really lit that fire under me a different day. But I needed to figure out how to do this on my own, right? I needed to figure out how to not depend on corporate America to provide my life for me. So that was my fire. That's what pushed me to real estate. But what did I create for myself? I built a wholesaling business, which really wasn't nothing but a job. It was a job. It was just a job that I owned, which is worse than a
Yeah.
job that you can't clock out of that job you own because you're, you know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
you're never gonna really let yourself off the clock. You know what I'm saying? So, um, why did I say it's a job? Because what is a job? A job is something you work one time, you get paid one time. Isn't that what wholesaling is?
Yeah.
I don't still get paid off those properties that I wholesaled 20 years ago. I only got that one check, that 3,000, that 5,000. It was times I would have the exceptions happen. I would get 25,000. It was a few I made 50,000. I mean, I'm not saying those things don't happen. I'm saying consistently. And where you're building a business, you're typically not building a business based on the exceptions, but rather the rule, right? That's why you go to McDonald's and they got a number 3 up there, and you get your whatever that is, quarter pounder meal or something like that, because more people order it the standard way. Sure, every now and then someone comes in and says, I don't want no onions, and they got to make it special. But for the most people are gonna buy it the way that is the standard way is designed. And the standard way that wholesaling is designed is for you to walk away, you as the wholesaler to walk away with $5,000 to $10,000. So that's the real number. So I spent several years after I you know, got more developed and got more years of experience and all that other stuff. And I said, well, how do I extract $5,000 or $10,000, let's say within the first year of holding this property, right, and still own it at the end of the year? Because now I get some additional profit centers that open up to me. Not just I made some immediate money on the front end, which is what wholesaling is, like a paycheck, right? But I want some money in the front, I want some money in the middle, and I want some money in the end. I don't want just one of those. I want all 3 paydays off this piece of property. You see,
Nigel, may interject real quick?
Sure.
So my strategy would be more like, okay, develop a skill in wholesaling, so that way, if like you said, like, you don't want to rely on too many things like a job, because anything could happen in a job. You're expendable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you got this skill, you could always go and get a bag real quick. But my bigger vision, I would say, is just to do a couple runs or get my number of what I want, and then move to the holding, like you said, holding the property, holding like a fourplex. Mm-hmm. So that's my bigger vision.
Okay. What I tend to teach people to do when people come to me for investing guidance is I say use the 80-20 principle. Okay. What does that mean? Create you an acquisition machine, right? Where leads are coming to you, a bunch of property leads. Sure, some of the ones that come to you, they're not going to be suitable, or they're not going to be good deals. You're going to pass on them. But for every 5 that you buy, 4 of those, 80%, you plan, meaning intend for those to be keepers, right? Sure, life might happen and you might change your mind or whatever. Someone comes and offers you a bunch of money, then you're going to sell it. But I'm saying your intention was that 4 out of 5 or 80% of those that you have targeted for acquisition are planned to be keepers. Now, 20% are the ones you plan to get rid of, in the short term. Okay. What that looks like in my world is this. I know that I like to buy property since I'm a buy and hold guy, right? That's who I've become. I've evolved into as a buy and hold guy. So I know that I want to have properties that people can live in from ages 18 to 80. If an 80-year-old is interested in staying here, if a 18-year-old is interested in staying here, if a 30-year-old with a couple kids is interested in staying here, properties that meet the needs of all of those different markets tend to look the same way, in the sense of maybe they're all on one level, maybe it's 2 to 3 bedroom, maybe it's close to the bus line, maybe it's close to some schools, maybe it's close to shopping and grocery stores, right? It's certain things that appeal to across those different demographics. So properties that check all those boxes are the ones I put in my long-term category, my buy and hold category, right? Every now and then I get properties that have 3 stories or this or that. I know if I got a 3-story property with a bunch of stairs in it, that disabled veteran in a wheelchair, he's not going to be as motivated to live there. I can't sell that property to him. He's probably not going to want to buy. He's not going to be interested in hearing about that property, even if I try to sell it to him, right? So he's wanting something that's going to fit his lifestyle, fit his needs, and of course, fit his budget and so forth and so on, right? So those ones that don't fit because they're too big, or maybe it's just a little bitty 1-bedroom house, right? Or maybe it's, it's all these ones that don't have wide appeal across various demographics, then I know to put them in that 20% category. If I might hold it for a little while, but as soon as somebody gives me the right price, or as soon as I do a little bit of a slight rehab on it to dress it up and, to make it look a little bit more appealing to whoever I'm selling it to, that property's gone. So what I caution you against is treating, if you're going to enter wholesaling, What I caution you against is treating wholesaling as if it's a water faucet. You can just turn a knob on and off whenever you want to.
Okay.
That doesn't really lead to success very well. That, in fact, that doesn't, because what really makes you successful is the consistency of lead flow, which means the consistency of activity, consistency of marketing, right? Outbound marketing and inbound marketing and all these things, because people don't understand how many leads you have to go through if you're going to be a full-time wholesaler. The other big problem with being primarily a wholesaler, even to start with, is people don't understand that big tax monster that you're creating for yourself, right? And that's a dog that will bite you.
Yeah,
Right.
no, I was thinking about that one too. I was thinking about that too because you got to be properly structured. I mean, maybe your first one you're gonna get taxed really bad because
Mm-hmm.
it is what it is. But then after you see that you're good at it, and you start having them coming in and you're making these deals, then what? You know, you got to be structured.
Well, structure helps you to a certain degree, right? But remember, as you get to higher income amounts, your tax rate gets higher, right? So maybe you only made $20,000 off of one house that you wholesale last year. That's not going to hurt you too bad at tax time, assuming that's your only income, right? But I consult. It was a couple guys that I trained here in Kansas City on real estate, and they were wholesaling 87 properties a year. Okay, that was their
Okay.
big. Before they met me, they built it up to
Wow.
that. They had a team full of virtual assistants in the Philippines. They had 10 full-time people. I sat down and met with them, and I reorganized their business because it was three partners, and although they had a lot of activity, their income didn't reflect the amount of properties that they were moving, right? And of course, their lifestyle didn't reflect the, what I'm saying, the amount of properties they were moving. Because you think 87 properties a year, you would think that would be a tremendous amount of cash flow, but it wasn't. So I
Right.
had to reprogram their business with many of the concepts I'm telling you I added to my own business, 10 years after I started. Right. So
Nice.
so that same property you're talking about wholesaling, what part of the country are you in?
I'm in Illinois.
Illinois. Like Chicago area or what?
Yeah, like Chicago area,
Okay.
Chicagoland area.
Okay. What's the average price point in your area?
I haven't checked any of that because I haven't decided if I was gonna do the land flipping or with the structure intact. I didn't know which one was gonna be easy. I know that the land flipping, the margin is 10 and below. If you're not getting that, most of the buy boxes are, you know what I mean, pretty easy. But that's the only information that I got so far.
Okay.
Is finding the hot spots in Zillow. You want to target, all the ones that are got all the little dots lit up.
Okay.
But man, you could do your little tricks on the getting the list and, like you said, later on, incorporating AI or whatever you want to do with
Mm-hmm.
Philippines. But right now, like I said, I haven't decided if I was going to do with the structure. I just want to develop the skill, go in there, dip my toes in the water, and then develop that skill, and then get into the holding part, the fun part, the headache
Yes.
part.
Yeah. Well, it can be fun. It also can be challenging. I mean, what I tell people is every path is hard, right?
Yeah,
You have to choose the hard that's right for you. You see
right.
what I'm saying? Every
Yeah,
path
yeah,
has its hard part. Every path has the part that sucks. You'll catch me on certain days like, man, this damn, dealing with tenants and dealing with the government and dealing with you're gonna catch me on days like that because if
right,
anybody tells you that something is just sweet all the time, they're lying to you. You know what I'm saying? They're
yeah,
lying to you. Every path has the hard part. That's just the truth. The challenge and the opportunity is in choosing a path that's aligned with your goals, aligned with the life that you want to design for yourself, right? Align with your tax strategy, align with your income strategy, align with your estate strategy, align with your asset strategy, align with all of these things. Your
right.
environmental and legal strategy, because you said you're in Illinois, right?
Yes, and it's bad.
Illinois,
It's bad. They got the state and, you know, like, yeah, you got
yeah,
to deal with two.
Illinois, yes, man. Many of these states, Illinois in particular, but quite a few of these states have a lot of vicious laws targeting wholesalers, man. really, really neutering us and making it almost extremely difficult for us to do the business, right? If you want to do it that way. Even Missouri, where I'm at, they're proposing a bunch of laws. They keep fighting it and shooting them down, but they come back and propose it again. So I'm sure it's going to happen sooner or later. They're gonna eventually pass those laws that really significantly impact the ability to do wholesaling in Missouri, like they've done in Illinois, like they've done in so many other states. So that's the other risk. Many times
Right.
they want you to be a real estate agent, which nothing against that, but I tell people that's a different industry. That's a different trade. That's a different,
Yeah.
hat that you're wearing. That's a different lens with which you approach the business, right? It's you know, and it's a different level of risk, right? When you have certain licenses and things, you're held to different standards, right?
Yeah.
And then the question becomes, who are you representing, right? Are you representing yourself? Are you representing the property owner? Who are you representing? You know, when I'm showing up as an investor, it's clear that I'm representing me. I'm a principal. I'm looking out for my own best interest. Even if I'm trying to help others, I'm primarily here to benefit myself in my pocket, right? So it's less of that kind of risk you have to worry about, and risk and consequence. Okay. So for you particularly, because we actually got a property in Illinois. You know where Dalton is? Dalton, Illinois?
Down in Illinois, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure. Where's that by? Like, what's the road
Right
there?
outside. It's the suburb of Chicago. So we got a property there.
Okay.
The last one we have um in Illinois. And
Okay.
we're probably planning to get rid of that one because the laws are so restrictive in Illinois. The taxation is so high in Illinois.
It
The
is.
it's some environments just honestly aren't as conducive to success for certain business models, right? So I would talk to you further about creating a business model for you. And it might not look like investing, in your backyard or, down the street from your house.
That's
You might
fine.
have, yeah, you might have to go across the state lines or something and pick a direction or something and find somewhere that's a little more fertile land,
Yeah.
right? A little more conducive to your
Yeah.
success. Because it's tough,
Right.
man. It's tough in Illinois, man.
Yeah.
I'll keep it real
Yeah.
with
I
you.
mean, your home, and your home state doesn't. Sometimes they don't have all the answers. Sometimes you gotta be able to move around and adapt. I agree with you on that, 100%.
For sure. And that's why from the beginning, I say real early, like year 4 or 5 of my career, I immediately started expanding to different areas. Even in my own city, me and my best friend from college, my roommate from college, we started investing, within a few years of each other. And he had more of a consolidated approach of investing. Now he's out of St. Louis, and he would buy block by block. He would find the block, target the block, and try to buy every house on that block, right? And he would want to fix that whole block up. And I'm like, man, that is honorable. That's respectable. That is great. Feels good and all of that. But that terrified me. The thought of that terrified me because now one bad thing goes wrong in that neighborhood and all my properties are impacted, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
One bad thing happens. So even when I was just in Kansas City, I'm on the far end over here and the far end over there, and I'd have properties all over the place, right? So that way, if one thing happens in one neighborhood, I think a lot of that, you know, I was shaped because, like I said, my third deal I ever did, I purchased an apartment complex owner finance. I was 22 years old, so my third property was an apartment complex. So what happened was I bought this apartment complex, and if I would have one person, one tenant that was a problem or didn't want to pay, or maybe they were, whatever the situation was, it would easily impact the other tenants' perspectives and my relationships with the other tenants staying in that building. So I became extra sensitive to the possibility of contamination happening, right? So while my friend, he bought properties on the same block and he didn't have as much of an issue with that. He was fortunate. I was terrified of what could happen from that. So I made sure to have more of a scattered sites type of approach. And quickly I went from having properties all over my own city to now I need to expand to different markets. Now I need to expand to different states. You see what I mean? So
Yes.
so that way I was insulated from a lot of those risks. I diversified where I held my properties at for that reason. So now when legislation comes along that significantly impacts my business, now I don't have to sell everything. I might have to sell these 5 or 10 over here, but I don't have to sell 50 properties. I don't have to sell all 100. I don't have to sell. You see what I mean? Because now if
Yeah.
I'm under that kind of pressure to sell right now I'm liquidating and I'm losing my equity. I'm not getting full value for my properties because time no longer is on my side, right? So these are things that I always considered even from the beginning, and I suggest that for you as well.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'm interested in developing a system. Really, I mean, that's I think all in all will, like you said, like don't treat it like a faucet, things like that. Just have a like a system in place, and I think that it'll be very valuable to have wholesalers while I'm holding as well, so
Oh
you
yeah,
could always get information on new properties. But yeah, like I said, you gave a lot of game, man, and I appreciate your time.
man, I appreciate you too, man. Thanks for coming on, and I'm gonna probably run this back with a part two. So we can talk some more or higher level strategies and stuff like that. So hopefully you can join and thanks for coming.
Hey, for sure, man. I'll be there.
All right, all right.
All right,
Um,
man.
let me check the chat. Anybody else have any questions that want to come on? Right, all right. I guess we'll go ahead and get ready to close this out. This is being recorded, so I'll post a replay link for everyone that wants to watch it from the beginning. And I'll see you guys on the next installment. All right, thank you all for joining. I appreciate you. Catch you next time.